Hi everyone, today we're going to make an image of a cell during mitosis while it's about to split into two. We work on animating this in another tutorial, but for today it's just going to be this still image. So let's begin by deleting the cube again, and this time we're going to use metaball. Metaballs are similar. It's a type of mesh that they are actually objects that are interacting with each other. Regular mesh objects don't interact with each other, but metaballs do. So let's get a metaball here. And if we duplicate this, Shift plus D for duplicating, and then you're going to see what I mean by interacting. See if I move one of them, how it looks. It's pretty cool, actually. You can move it in any direction that you want, like that. You can use multiple versions of them, but for now I'm just gonna use this. And you see it's kind of like low poly, low resolution. So to fix that, if you go to metaball properties here, metaball data, what we need is to decrease the resolution, and because they are interacting, it's actually do it for both of them, which is pretty awesome. So let's go. This is very high. This is good. So we're already halfway through with our image. But so I think I like it like this now. When you probably maybe moving it a little bit closer, like that. Yeah, I think it's perfect. So now I'll just convert this to a mesh so it'd be easier to work with, and I can add modifiers. So because I don't think you can add modifiers as far as I know, but I have limited experiences with metaballs. You can't add modifiers to them. So we can convert this to a mesh. Just make sure you like the shape and everything, and then convert it to mesh, because then you can take it back. You cannot change this shape, how it's interacting after you convert it to a mesh. So if I select both of them, convert to mesh. Good, great. So let's set origin to geometry, apply scale, and we can just move it in the middle like that. So now let's do modifiers. So this is how our mesh look like. We're gonna add a displacement modifier to make the cell look like a bit rippled and wrinkled, and usually that works better if we add a subdivision surface first, although this one really doesn't need it, but it's already very smooth. And then let's go to deform, displace. We've done this before, so it's the same thing. We decrease the strength, and then new texture, go to texture tab, pick your texture. My favorite is a Stucci, and let's decrease this, no, actually increase it a little bit. I think this is good. Now let's go to render view and set up our light and everything. Now the effect I'm gonna go for it today is, actually let me delete that light. I'm gonna just add an area light. Where's the light? I'm gonna move it here and rotate it wrong direction again. Okay, and I like to change the shape of the light to ellipse, and let's look at it from this view, and I want to scale it along the y-axis and then a little bit along the z-axis to be like that. And now we increase the intensity. Let's see how does it look with 1000. We also need to change the material. Okay, let's give our shape a material. We can call it, something is happening to my computer. Okay, we can call it cell. And for the material, I like to, well, let's decrease the IOR, and I like to give it a bit of transparency. Another thing, go to change the render engine to cycle. And I also like to change the world color to black, get it darker. And more transparent, like that. And we can also decrease the roughness to give it a bit of shine. Okay, something like that. I decreased my light intensity to 500. I thought it was too bright. Okay, now let's make the chromosomes. We can hide this one for now, and actually let's call it cell to be more organized. Hide it from the view, hide the light as well, go back to solid view. And to make the chromosomes, the way I did it was, let's add a Bezier curve. Let's move it to, let's change the rotation so we can get that 100. I never learned these rotations. Okay, I think it's good. And if you look at it from, let's hide the camera as well. Okay, now let's go to edit mode, and I'm gonna move this one to here. I'm using G on my keyboard, and that. Okay, I think it's good now. Okay, now let's go back to object mode. We want to go to Bezier curve, the curve properties, and then increase the depth. It's under geometry tab and bevel. So let's go maybe this much. Fill caps, that would, you see that end, the end caps, they are not filled, so we press that to fill it. And then one thing we want to do is round up the very ends, the caps. To do that, the first thing we need to do, go into modifier tab and look for weld modifier, this one. Okay, and then add a subdivision surface. If you don't use weld modifier, subdivision surface cannot do much without the weld. So then we do that, and then it's still not smooth. You see the jagged ends. So to fix that, we go back to Bezier tab, to curve properties, and then decrease the resolution to 0. And that's how it looks like. One thing you can do, if you like it to be smoother, you can go to back to the subdivision surface and increase the levels to maybe 3. But the more you do, the file gets heavier. And I'm gonna at the end give this a rough material, so I don't mind if it's not too smooth right now. Okay, so I'm gonna convert this. If you're happy with the shape, I'm convert it to a mesh. Let's look at it from the wireframe. I would like to subdivide this because I'm going to use the sculpting tools to give it a more organic shape. And if you have more geometry, it works better. So if I go to here to edit mode, select all of it, and then subdivide. I use A on my keyboard to select all. Okay, back to object, solid view, the sculpting. Okay, now what I like to do is to make this end a bit larger, more puffy. So let's go to inflate. We can use that, or blob. Can increase the size with F on your keyboard or Shift F for the intensity. Right now it's at 0.5. If you want to do maximum intensity, that will be 1. I think 1 is too much. So I like to decrease it. I just wanted to look a bit more organic and not too precise. Oops, you see, that's because I was just doing it in one direction. You don't want it to be like this. This is too much, and the intensity was too much. So I go back and I just do it again. From decrease the size of the tool, and then just do it from all directions. So I finished mine, and then I duplicated, moved the second one down, rotated, and then place them like this next to each other, and then I added this UV sphere here in the middle. So that's how it looks like. Now let's work on the material. I want to try this fuzzy material for the chromosome. First, make sure we've applied scale, and then let's go to particle system, this tab here, and add a particle system. Change it to hair. Change the hair length to something much smaller, maybe 0.02. Yeah. And then the number 2, let's say 10,000. Then we go to children tab here, change that to interpolated. And for the render amount, let's decrease it to 70. That will make it easier, lighter for the file, but if your computer is powerful, we can go up to 100, and then the same with the display amount. Actually, now I feel like this is a lot, so we can decrease, maybe let's try 5,000 for the number of particles, probably better. Okay. And then we want to go down to roughness, this tab here, and change the random to 0.034. That looks pretty cool. This gives it a bit of movement, and now we can actually decrease it because that was too large. Okay, I think this is up. Yeah. And then hair shape, diameter root, change that to 0.5. Now let's actually go to our render view. We don't have light here, that's why it looks dark. So let's change our area light, And let's just add a point light here so we can see better. And you can also go to material view and you can see the material better there. But so if we want to see this better, we can just go to our wall and increase the light. So that's how this thing looks like. I still think this is a lot of, we can still decrease it, which is better because it's, at the end it's going to be easier for the on the computer. So let's go maybe to 3000. Even less actually. Go, let's see how does it look like if we go like 2000. Yeah, now it's a bit, so probably 2. Okay, and maybe we can play with the random value here again. Okay. You know, in reality, this thing might not be even visible in our final image, but so if this is too much on your computer, you can just go with a regular material. But it would be nice if you want to do zoom in rendering and just like zoom on the chromosome and do a render. So let's change this back to dark because I want to get a black. And let's do the same for this. We don't need to repeat it. We can just go add a particle system and then select the particle setting, the first one. So that would apply it. And then this circle here, need to enlarge it. And you can give it any material that you want. So if we select these 3, let's bring back the cell. So this is too large. So we need to scale this. And then we just need to place 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 here within the cell. And then we'll duplicate and put the same on the other side. It's just that when you're duplicating this, because of it has a particle system, it's going to get heavier and heavier and harder on your computer. So just like if you're not using this, if you don't want to use this material, it's okay. This is how mine look like now. Next thing we need to do, we need to create something that would be at the end of each cell, close to the edge. That will be basically that, I think they call centrosomes. It's like a little organelle. And then the strings that goes, the microtubules that goes from the centrosome to the chromosome. So for the first one, let's hide the cell again. And one quick way to do that, let's go to viewport. And we can leave the lights. Let's get a UV sphere. Like a smaller, I'm using S on my keyboard in case you've forgotten. And apply scale. I think the easiest way would be if I use the same particle system. Well, not the same exact one, but same procedure. So use hair. This time you want it a bit longer hair. 1 is still a lot. Let's see how does it look, 0.1. Yeah, I think it's not bad. And then we don't need this much. Let's see how does it look if it's even less. And we'll go to interpolate. We don't need much. Let's do just 10 maybe. And then random. Would look like this. Okay, don't need much of this. Let's decrease this. And for that number, maybe again, down to 50. Okay, better. Yeah, I like that. And hair shape, again, change the diameter root 2.5. Okay, that is our, how does it look in the, yeah, I think that's good. Okay, back here. Next thing, we need to add this string between this and the chromosome. Easiest way you can probably guess is Bezier curve. So let's just add a Bezier curve. We go to edit mode, move it to here, and just put the end vertex here and the other end to this part. Okay. Okay. So I move the curve to align it with the chromosome and the centrosome. I think this thing is called centrosome, but I might be wrong. And then what we need to do is add geometry to it. So again, geometry tab, bevel, and then increase the depth. Well, for this one, we don't need to do too much. I think 0.01 is enough. It's supposed to be a delicate structure. And then one thing you can do if you want to give it more organic shape is converting it to mesh, go to a sculpting mode, and again, move it a little bit around, maybe inflate it in some areas and just like make it look nicer. Well, one thing I would say is that, because then you can duplicate this and do the same. But I would, before converting it to mesh, while it's still a curve, I duplicate, move, because that way it's easier to change the shape, and then convert it to mesh at the very end when you're done. Okay. Okay, so I duplicated them. I created the spindle, the tubes, and placed them like this, and then duplicated the whole thing and put it on the right side. I also added some spheres. So these are simple UV sphere. I just added a texture, and then put some in the middle, just for the visual purpose, and then some around this. I actually remember this thing is centriole, not centrosome, and put some of it around that. So that's how it looks like. Now let's work a little bit on the lighting and material and colors. Okay, so for material, let's just start with the cell. And if you go to shader editor, here, similar to the last time, if I add a shader mixer here, or mix shader, which is usually used to combine two different shaders, but I like when I just put it in the middle because it decreases the intensity of one of the shader. I like the transparency effect here better when I do that. Then we can play with the factor here to basically make our shader stronger or less intense. Right, so it looks like that. And now let's do some coloring. I kind of like this to be minimal and black and white-ish with some touches of color. I think for the chromosomes, actually let's use this thing so we don't select the cell every time. If you use this, disable the selection. If you don't see it, it's here. You just want to go and check this thing. That way you won't keep selecting it, and then you can select the objects inside of it. So for the chromosomes, we already gave it material, right? Like the fuzzy thing. Now we just want to pick a color for it. If we go to material, give it new material, and we can call it chromosome. And let's see, maybe like greenish. Also, let's increase, we have one light here in the middle, and we can maybe increase the intensity of it a bit. Okay. And as you can imagine, I did not apply a material to the chromosomes when I was making it. Now I have to select them again one by one. And then for this one, I really like these. I'm very happy with how they turned out. So for this one, maybe something, I don't know, blue. I think this looks nice. We might also want to put a light here. So to do that, if we press Shift S and then do this one, cursor to select it. That will bring our cursor here. So then we add a point light here. Let's move it a little bit. And then we can play with the colors. And we probably want to do the same for this one. It's easier to see if you go to wireframe. That color has a small radius. Okay. Let's duplicate it and then move. Did I duplicate? Okay, duplicate and move one to here as well. Okay. And then for the tubes, I like to try this thing, subsurface scattering. So let's increase the weight. Yeah. For this one, I remember to apply a material, so I don't have to do it one by one. Okay. And then pick whatever color you like for these spheres. You can place more lights. You can place lights outside of the cell. You can either do area lights or just point lights if you want to get more glow around the cell. We can also move the area light closer to get more light into it, but that's just something you can play with. Okay, this is my final look. I made a few changes. First, I like the colors to be minimal and I don't like to use too many colors, so I changed my color. I wanted this to be a bit black and white with a shade of green, and then for the centrioles I used something a little bit complementary to green, so orangish. But one thing about the cell material that I played with, well, that's the beauty of Blender. There are so many different nodes, you can mix and match them and see how it just turns out. So I added a sheen shader to my transparent BSDF. So I already had the mix shader there, so I just plugged this sheen node to it, and I like the look better. I decreased the roughness a bit. So that was the major thing. The rest was just playing with the colors. So if you like it to be more colorful, feel free. I would love to see how they turn out. And then it's just ready to render. One thing you can do, if you like, you can change the background. We've done this before in the previous tutorial. You can add a plane and then add some texture to it. If you don't like a plain black background, I might do that too. It's just that you need to set up a light near it because the whole world is so dark that you're not going to see anything unless there's a bit of light next to it. So don't forget that part. And then you can just render it. Don't forget to decrease the max sample number for the render. Check or uncheck denoise, and then the light path you can also reduce. Yeah. Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what are the other topics that you like to see a tutorial for them. And if you have the fuzzy material, and also around the centrals, I think, because it just looks cool. So I would take a few zoom in images as well. Okay, hope you enjoyed it.